You know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
That awful sinking feeling, maybe hours after a conversation. You're just replaying it in your head, and then suddenly it hits you. Oh, she wasn't just being nice.
Yeah.
She was flirting. She was totally flirting with me, and I
Hmm.
completely missed it.
Hmm.
If that sounds familiar, well, today we are going to put an end to that feeling of regret.
It's an almost universal experience, that missed opportunity. But it really doesn't have to be your story going forward. And, what's behind that regret, it's not a lack of confidence, not really. It's more of a fundamental language barrier.
A language barrier. I like that.
Yeah, because we're often trained to look for these really direct, obvious signs, a verbal invitation. But the language of attraction, especially in how women often communicate it, it's so much more subtle than that.
Exactly. It's like we're trying to understand two completely different communication styles. You've got, let's say, the more traditionally masculine approach, which is
Hmm.
often very linear, direct. A leads to B.
Hmm.
Yeah, explicit. And then you have this more nuanced, layered, contextual approach that many women use. And it's not just a different dialect. It's like a completely different language of attraction.
And that nuance, it's not random. It's not there to confuse you. It's governed by a really deep psychological principle that we have to get right away. And that is the principle of plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
That right there is the key. The Rosetta Stone for all of this.
It
It
is.
means that every signal is calibrated. So she's going to broadcast something that's strong enough for an attentive person for you to pick up on. But, and this is the crucial part, if you don't respond, or if it doesn't go well, the signal has to be subtle enough that she can just retract it.
Instantly. She can just say, oh, I was just being friendly. No embarrassment, no fear of that explicit, painful rejection.
It's a defense mechanism.
A social and emotional defense mechanism, exactly. So if you're out there waiting for, I don't know, a written invitation to arrive by courier,
Or a giant neon sign flashing, "Approach me now."
right, you are going to miss 99% of the real invitations that life is sending your way. Because they're never guaranteed. They all have that built-in safety net.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to essentially give you a new set of lenses. We're moving past the guesswork, the crossing your fingers, and hoping we want you to feel competent, to actually be able to read the behavioral psychology that's happening right in front of you, moving you from just hoping for a spark to confidently knowing where it is.
We're looking for patterns of behavior that, when you see them together, just defy coincidence. So let's start with the very first sign. This one comes from the deep, primitive parts of the brain. We call this one the magnetism of the unconscious preen.
The unconscious preen.
Okay.
So you're saying we should focus our attention on her hands and these little tiny physical adjustments she makes. Why are her hands so important here? What's going on?
Well, it's because this behavior, it's not a conscious choice. It stems from this really intense internal surge, both psychological and biological. When attraction spikes, your body releases a whole cocktail of hormones. You've got dopamine, which is the reward chemical, and norepinephrine, which is about focus and stress.
Okay, so she's getting flooded with these chemicals.
Exactly. And it creates this dual effect. First, you get a surge of nervous energy, a slight jitteriness. But second, you get this deep biological imperative to present the absolute best version of yourself. She has an audience now, and that audience is you.
Okay, let's unpack that nervous energy part because I think that gets confused a lot. People see fidgeting and they might think, oh, she's bored or she's anxious. How do we tell the difference between just, general fidgeting and this attraction-based preening?
The difference is the target of the attention. That's the whole game. If she's bored or anxious about something that has nothing to do with you, her fidgeting will be dissociative. She'll be tapping her foot, looking away, checking her phone, maybe biting her nails while looking down at her lap.
Disconnected from you.
Totally disconnected. But attraction-based preening is a deliberate, even if it's unconscious, attempt at self-improvement or self-soothing. And this is the key. It is done while maintaining consistent eye contact with you.
So she's adjusting herself for you.
Yeah.
Got it. So what are some specific micro behaviors we should be watching for here?
Okay, so look for these little acts of tidying up her presentation. Smoothing a wrinkle on her skirt, adjusting a sleeve, maybe just touching her necklace or her earrings. These are all these subtle little physical checks, just confirming she looks okay, she looks presentable. But the most powerful one, the classic signal, is anything involving her hair.
Ah, the hair twirl. It feels like such a cliche, but why is it so powerful from a psychological standpoint?
Because playing with or twirling or sweeping the hair back does two critical things at once. First, the obvious one. It draws your eye to her face. It effectively frames her face as the main point of attraction.
Okay, that makes sense.
But secondly, and this is much deeper, when she sweeps her hair back, especially if she tilts her head, she momentarily exposes the most vulnerable parts of her body, specifically the neck and sometimes the inner wrists.
The neck. What does exposing the neck signal in, like, behavioral science? What does that mean?
It signals a profound level of trust and openness. Evolutionary biology tells us the neck is a critical point of vulnerability. We just don't expose it to people we don't know or people we feel threatened by.
So it's a safety signal.
It's a massive safety signal. If she is physically exposing her neck while she's engaged with you, her subconscious is basically broadcasting, I feel safe with you, I feel relaxed, I am open to more interaction. It's an ancient cross-species signal of comfort.
Wow, okay, so the hair adjustment is actually channeling that nervous energy into a biologically significant signal of safety. But okay, what if she's not a hair toucher? Some people just aren't. Sometimes they mess with objects. This is what you call the object stroke, right? Let's talk about that, the psychology of transferring that desire.
Exactly. When she feels attraction, there's often this natural tactile desire, the desire for physical touch, reach out and hold your hand or touch your arm. But social rules prevent us from just doing that out of the blue.
Right. It would be a bit much.
A little bit. But that desire doesn't just disappear. It has to go somewhere. It seeks an outlet. And it becomes what we call a displacement activity.
So that desire for physical connection gets put onto a nearby inanimate object.
Precisely. You might see her fingers just idly stroking the smooth stem of her wine glass. Or running a fingertip around the rim of a coffee mug, maybe slowly twisting a ring on her finger. That motion is a visualization of the touch she actually desires to share with you.
Okay, but I can already hear people thinking, wait a minute, maybe she just does that. Maybe she's just bored and fiddling with her glass.
And that's where context is everything. The untrained eye just sees someone fiddling. The observant person sees the fiddling paired with unwavering eye contact.
Ah, there it is again. The eye contact.
It's always the key. If her focus, her energy, her gaze is locked on you while her fingers are doing that repetitive tactile motion, she is acting out the connection. The object is just a stand-in.
If she's doing it while looking away, checking the time.
It's boredom. It's distraction. But if she's doing it while leaning in, smiling, hanging on your every word, it is a physical manifestation of her attraction. It's that simple.
That is a really powerful distinction. It's not the action itself, it's the direction of her attention during the action. Okay, so let's shift from those subtle individual physical movements to what happens in a group. Let's move on to our second sign, which you've said is maybe the most reliable indicator of interest when you're not one-on-one, the social verification glance.
Yeah, this one is so easy to miss because it happens in a split second. It's a micro expression of her intent. See, we are wired as social creatures, fundamentally. And whenever we experience a heightened emotion, joy, surprise, confusion, even a little bit of social anxiety, we instinctively look toward the person whose connection or approval we crave the most in that moment.
So, in a group, the person she cares most about is the person she'll look for first when something happens. Let's talk about the classic example, the laughter test.
Okay, imagine the scene. You're at a table with, say, 4 or 5 people. Someone tells a really funny joke. The whole table erupts in laughter. In that fraction of a second, that peak of the laughter, her eyes will dart. They will instinctively seek out the target of her attraction, you.
She's looking for verification. She's subconsciously asking, are we sharing this moment?
Yeah.
Does he think this is funny too?
Are we on the same wavelength? Yes. She's seeking to confirm that you are sharing that dopamine release together. It shows she is prioritizing your reaction over everyone else's, even over the person who told the joke. It reveals who is occupying the most mental real estate for her. If your reaction is the one she needs to validate her own feeling, that is a profound signal.
But I can hear some guys thinking, isn't that a little egotistical to assume she's looking at me for guidance?
Well, it's not about guidance so much as connection. And the key is the timing and the frequency. She might glance at the speaker once, sure, but if she consistently looks at you every single time, there's a shared emotional moment, a surprise, a loud noise, a shared laugh. That repeated instinct points to something much deeper than just social politeness. It's about pair bonding.
And you mentioned this goes beyond humor. It also applies to uncertainty or a perceived social threat. That feels even more primal.
It is because it taps into deeper evolutionary wiring. So let's say an unexpected interruption happens. A waiter drops a tray of glasses, or maybe a stranger starts acting aggressively nearby. If her immediate reflexive action is to look at you for a cue on how to react, to see if you're calm or concerned, she is identifying you as her anchor in that moment.
She's sort of subconsciously assigning you the role of leader or protector in her immediate little world. That's a huge sign of trust.
It is. It suggests that when the unexpected happens, her first thought is, what does he think about this? It's an evolutionary trait. We seek reassurance from our strongest perceived connection.
So what's the actionable part of that? If you catch that glance, what do you do?
You have to acknowledge it. You must. A small smile, a slight nod of the head, or just returning that locked eye contact for a second. It confirms, yes, I saw that. We are sharing this. That validation is what reinforces the bond she is trying to build.
Validation is the currency here.
Okay.
Okay. So once you've established that emotional connection with the glance, the next step is physical. And that brings us to sign number 3, the proximity paradox and barrier removal. This is all about the unspoken rules of our physical space.
Yeah, our personal space, it's sacred, it's our invisible bubble. In most Western cultures, that social boundary is about an arm's length. When attraction is present, there is a subconscious mission to systematically shrink that gap. But, and here it is again, she has to maintain plausible deniability.
So he needs an excuse. Oh, the room was just crowded, or I couldn't hear you.
Exactly. This is the proximity paradox. Finding ways to get closer even when the environment doesn't really require it.
So give us some examples of that accidental closeness.
It's all in the micro movements. You could be standing at a bar and she just shifts her weight enough so her shoulder or her elbow gently brushes against yours, even though there's plenty of space. Or maybe she needs to reach for something on the table and her hand just happens to linger over yours for a moment longer than it needs to.
I could definitely picture the leaning in at a loud club, but how do we know if it's because of the noise versus her intent?
Great question. This is where your observation skills come in. If the venue is genuinely loud, look around. Is everyone leaning in? If so, that's just compensation. But if you move to a quieter spot, and she still maintains that close proximity, if she's still leaning in to hear you when you're speaking at a normal volume, that is intentional. She's testing the waters.
What's the right way to respond to that test? What is she looking for?
She's sending out a physical feeler. If she invades your space and you recoil, you pull back or turn your shoulder away, you have just signaled discomfort or rejection.
You failed the test.
You failed the test.
Oh.
But if you hold your ground, or even better, if you lean in slightly yourself, mirroring her closeness, you signal mutual interest. You show you're comfortable with that level of intimacy. You've just passed the physical trust test.
Okay, so beyond just shrinking the bubble, we also need to look at the psychology of barriers. People who are closed off emotionally, they often put up physical barriers.
Absolutely. The torso is our psychological core. When we're defensive or closed off, what do? We cross our arms, we create a shield, we place objects, a purse, a phone, a drink, directly on the table between us. These are all unconscious stay-away signs.
So when attraction is in play, we should see the opposite of that. We should see systematic barrier removal.
Yes. Watch her item placement. Does she deliberately move her phone or her jacket to the side, creating this clear, open channel between your chest and hers? That open space is a massive invitation. An open torso facing you squarely with her arms relaxed is the physical embodiment of vulnerability. She is dropping her defenses, but specifically for you.
What about the old one, the direction of the feet? Does that still hold up?
It absolutely does, especially when you see it clustered with other signals. She might be forced to be polite and talk to the person on her left, but if her feet and her knees are pointed directly at you, that's where her emotional and physical focus is. Her body knows where it wants to go.
And then the final and maybe most powerful physical signal in this section, the gravitational pull, the lean.
This is the definitive closing of that gap. It's not just her head tilting to listen. It's her entire upper body, the shoulders, the chest tilting towards you as you speak. She is trying to absorb more of your presence, your voice, your energy, even your scent.
It's an unconscious drive to get more of you.
Yes, it signals that all the psychological distance has been erased. If you see the lean, you are in a very high interest zone. The barriers are down and she is giving you permission to deepen the interaction.
So we've covered the physical trust signals. Now we have to look at how attraction changes the very way she communicates. Let's get into sign number 4, the vulnerability drop and tonal shift.
Yeah, this takes us into the nonverbal world. It's a reminder that what we say is only, what, 7% of communication? The rest is tone and body language. And attraction is so powerful that it can fundamentally alter the acoustic quality of her voice when she talks to you.
So this is the vulnerability drop you mentioned. Her voice deviates from its normal baseline. What does that sound like?
It usually shows up in two main ways, both driven by hormones and both signal exclusivity. The first one, manifestation A, is when her voice becomes a little bit higher or softer, maybe more melodic. People describe it as a sweet or more feminine tone. Biologically, this can be a signal of approachability, of youth, a desire to be cared for.
And manifestation B is the more intimate one, right?
Correct. This is where her voice actually drops a register. It becomes slower, maybe a little deeper or breathier. It's quieter, so it forces you to lean in to hear her. This signals comfort, exclusivity, and a desire for intimacy. When a woman drops her voice just for you, she's literally creating a private, auditory bubble that only you two share.
How important is it to compare, though? I mean, some people just naturally have a soft voice or a deep voice.
Comparison is everything. You absolutely have to establish her baseline. Listen to how she orders her coffee from the barista. How does she talk to her friend on the phone? How does she talk to the waiter? Then you note the shift when she turns to speak to you. Is the speed different? Is the pitch different? That exclusive change, the one that is reserved only for your ears, that is the signal of attraction.
Okay, so from the tone of her voice to the substance of her words, attraction speeds things up. You call this the high-speed intimacy bridge. Why is small talk the enemy of attraction?
Because small talk, the weather, traffic, what you do for work on a surface level, it's functional. It's polite. It's for people we don't really care to know deeply. Attraction can't survive on that. To build a real connection, she needs to bypass the superficial stuff and test your emotional intelligence.
And she does that by offering up a piece of her own vulnerability. What kind of content shift are we looking for?
She'll volunteer something about her internal world. It might be a slightly embarrassing quirk she has, or a dream she's been chasing, maybe a fear she doesn't tell many people about, or a childhood memory that really shaped who she is. It's not trauma necessarily, but it's something she keeps close.
So she's basically handing you this raw, exposed piece of herself.
Mm.
What is the test in that action? What is she looking for from you?
The test is so simple. Can you handle this with care? If she shares a personal fear, like, I actually feel like a total imposter at my job sometimes, and you just dismiss it, or mock it, or one-up her, you fail. You fail the emotional IQ test.
Right.
But if you respond with empathy, with validation, and maybe you share a similar feeling you've had, you secure that bridge. You accelerate the connection. You've just shown that you are emotionally safe, which is the prerequisite for any deeper attraction.
That makes so much sense. It shifts the entire dynamic from a transaction to a real exploration.
And this brings us to the kinds of questions she asks. The difference between just being polite and what you call the interview for the soul. Exactly. When she's genuinely interested, she is not just collecting data for your resume. Polite curiosity asks, so what do you do for work? But genuine flirting interest asks, do you love what you do? What's the thing that really gets you fired up?
She's trying to understand your values, your character, your motivations.
Absolutely. She's trying to see if her world fits inside your world. She wants to ask questions that require you to be vulnerable, that require thoughtful answers. If the conversation starts to feel profound, if she keeps gently pushing you towards these deeper, character-revealing topics, she is absolutely building a connection.
Okay, now we've arrived at the most high-stakes signal, the one that probably causes the most pain when it's missed, because it's often the final window of opportunity. This is sign number 5, the active wait and the linger.
Yeah, the problem here is that most of us are just conditioned to recognize the end of a conversation. Normal interactions, they have an exit ramp, the topic runs out, and you say your goodbyes. If she's not interested, she will take that off-ramp immediately. Well, it was great seeing you. I gotta go. It's a firm, clear ending.
But the active wait is when that logical conclusion comes and goes, but she's still there. The conversation is over, but she hasn't left. How does that look?
She's hovering. She's in your orbit. And crucially, she's not distracted. She's not suddenly absorbed in her phone or looking for her friends. Her body is still oriented towards you. She might have slightly awkward smile. She's still holding eye contact. She might be doing these small, unnecessary tasks, like slowly putting on her jacket or fumbling with the strap on her bag.
She's intentionally delaying the separation. What's the message there? What is she waiting for?
The message is crystal clear. I don't want this to end, and I have officially run out of subtle ways to extend it. The ball is in your court now. She is waiting for you to step up, to take the lead, and either propose the next step or bridge the gap physically.
The classic and maybe most painful example of this is the doorway pause.
Oh, it's the classic. The end of a date. You walk her to her car or to her apartment door. She gets her keys out. Maybe she even unlocks the door. But she doesn't go in. She turns back to you. And then she asks some trivial, almost ridiculous question. Wow, the moon looks so big tonight, doesn't it? Or, wait, what is that movie you mentioned earlier?
A question she definitely doesn't need the answer to. She's using time.
Yes. She is using her most valuable currency, time, to delay the end of the interaction, hoping you will use that space she's creating. That pause at the doorway is the moment for action. If she is lingering when she has a perfectly good reason to leave, her ride is here, her friends are waiting, that is a massive flare gun of interest. She's asking for a kiss, or for you to lock down that second date, or for some moment of connection.
So if you see the linger, if she's slowly packing up her things but still asking you detailed questions about your weekend plans, that's it. That's the moment to stop thinking and start acting.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered these 5 crucial signals. Now we have to talk about the most important part of all, how to put it all together. We need to discuss synthesizing these signals and taking action. This is where we introduce the cluster rule.
This is so important because, like we said, looking at one signal in isolation is a recipe for getting it wrong. A woman might touch her hair just because her neck itches. She might lean in because the music is loud. So how do we know for sure?
In behavioral psychology, we look for patterns. We look for clusters of behavior that defy coincidence.
The cluster rule states that when you see 3 or more of these distinct signals appear within a short, focused interaction, you should dismiss all doubt.
The statistical probability of her just being friendly and accidentally hitting 3 of these attraction signals at the same time is practically 0.
Can you give us an example of what a cluster would look like in the real world?
Sure. Let's say within a 10-minute conversation, she gives you the laughter test glance. That's sign 2. And that's coupled with the unconscious preen. Maybe she's adjusting her necklace while holding your eye contact. That's sign 1. And then she initiates the proximity paradox by moving closer to you as she talks. That's sign 3. 1, 2, 3. That is undeniable interest. You have to proceed as if it's a certainty.
But that brings up the big fear, the what if. What if she's just a really bubbly, warm, friendly person, the so-called fake flirt? How do we know for sure that these signals are for us and not just how she is with everyone?
This is where you have to develop the skill of establishing her social baseline. You have to become a quiet observer of her general behavior. Watch how she interacts with people who hold 0 romantic interest for her. The barista, her friends, an older doorman. Is she touchy-feely with everyone? Does she use that soft melodic voice with everybody?
So we're not looking for a specific behavior. We're looking for the deviation from the baseline.
Precisely. Attraction is defined by exclusive special treatment. If your baseline personality is loud and bubbly, but with you she becomes noticeably quieter, more intense, and starts sharing vulnerable things, that's the signal. Or the reverse. If her baseline is very reserved and professional, but with you she suddenly becomes touchy and laughs easily and her voice changes, that's the signal. You are looking for behavior that is reserved exclusively for the dynamic between the two of you.
This leads to something really important, which is the consequence of not reading these signals, the tragedy of obliviousness. It's more than just missing an opportunity, isn't it? It can actually damage the connection.
It absolutely does. Every single time she sends one of these subtle signals, the hair touch, the lean in, the vulnerability drop, she is taking a small emotional risk. She's lowering her defenses just for a moment.
Yeah.
And when you miss it, when you act oblivious or just respond like a platonic friend, she interprets that as a micro-rejection.
The message she hears is, I took a risk and got nothing back.
Exactly. And if you repeatedly punish her for being vulnerable by being oblivious, she's going to stop. She will stop sending the signals, the door closes, the barriers go back up, and the momentum just dies. This is why you hear guys say a woman suddenly went cold. She didn't. She just stopped trying to light a fire because you gave her no fuel, no sign you even saw the spark.
So once the cluster rule has confirmed that there's interest, what is the confident, effective way to respond? Let's talk about the mirroring technique in measured escalation.
Right. First rule. Do not make it explicit. Don't break that beautiful tension by saying, aha, I caught you flirting.
That would kill it instantly.
Instantly. The magic is in the unspoken dance. Your job is to validate her signal by sending a reciprocal one back and then safely escalating.
So if she leans in, the gravitational pull, don't pull back. Hold your ground, and then maybe lean in a little closer when you respond.
Perfect. You're reinforcing that mutual pull. If she lightly touches your arm to make a point, You smile, you acknowledge it nonverbally, and then 5 minutes later, you find a reason to lightly touch her shoulder to emphasize one of your points. You are normalizing the physical connection that she started.
And when she creates that linger moment, the active wait, you have to fill that space with intentional action.
You must. Do not ask about the weather. Use that space to solidify the next step. Say something direct, like, I have genuinely loved this conversation. I don't want it to end here. I'd love to take you out next week. What's the best way to make that happen?
You're creating a positive feedback loop. Your confident response validates her risk, which makes her feel safer to send more signals, which boosts your confidence to escalate again. It's this gentle upward spiral.
That's the foundation of genuine connection. By understanding all of this, you really are shifting from being a passive passenger to an active, informed driver. The focus moves away from that internal anxiety of what do I say next to external observation. What is she doing? What is she signaling?
You now understand that attraction isn't some big theatrical performance. It's a whisper. It's a subtle adjustment. It's a glance across a crowded room. You've been given the tools to finally see and hear the opportunities for connection that were there all along, but were just invisible to you before.
The invitation has always been in the nuance. Our hope is that you accept the call to action, apply these new lenses, and step confidently into the connections that you absolutely deserve.
And if these deep insights into behavioral dynamics and relationship psychology have really resonated with you, and you feel like you're ready to stop guessing and start knowing, we really encourage you to master these skills with us. This comprehensive knowledge on emotional intelligence and connection is what we develop and teach every day with the experts at our channel, Real Love Talks.
We're here to help you understand that unspoken language that really governs all of our relationships. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation today. We invite you to explore the Real Love Talks channel to continue your journey toward mastering these human dynamics.
Go out there, pay attention, and let the signals guide you. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.